think I should get a boom mic or a boom arm for this mic just to lift it up. Start out with Terraform. First, we want to answer the question of what is Terraform? Well, simply, Terraform is infrastructure as code. It literally does what it says on the tin. It's infrastructure as code and can be used to deploy just about any AWS service or any cloud service as code. And this has a few advantages. One of the main advantages it has is that you can use the same code and just change a couple of variables to deploy your dev, staging, and production environments. And it's human readable, so you can figure out what's going on in most Terraform configuration files, or TFs. Start by logging into our cloud account. If you're going to be using Terraform in a stated environment, which is one where you can share configurations and infrastructure with others, you're going to need a S3 backend, and this is just an S3 bucket, and you can just create a blank S3 bucket and accept the defaults. Then you're going to need a DynamoDB table. So create a table. We're going to call this TF states, and it needs the primary key of lock ID as a string. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and open up your project. Let's go ahead and open VS Code and get started doing that. All right, so let me fix my orientation. View, appearance, move panel right, and let's go ahead and expand that a little bit. And for this, we will need a backend file, and we'll just call it main.tf. And we're going to be doing a Lambda, so we are going to have a pretty basic non-functioning Lambda. We will need to zip that Lambda. Oops. Forgot this part of it. Okay, so now we have our structure and our backend file is empty. Let's start by putting stuff in our backend, and the backend configuration needs to know what it is, and in this case it's Terraform. Backend is S3, S3, and with that you need the variables. We are going to encrypt it, so that's going to be true. We need the bucket name that we created, and that was, let's get the bucket name, 01 Hi-Fi Ghetto Terraform. So we got our bucket name. And we need the key. The key here is just the path that we want to use for our Terraform states. What this does is it actually saves a state file that everybody who has access to the project can reference. And it needs to be an individual name, an individual path, a unique path. Let me rephrase that. And it needs to be a unique path per project. region, choose your region closest to you with the correct spelling, and then the DynamoDB table. And that was the table that we created a few moments ago here. Here. Okay, so we have the back end sorted. I like to do the required version in the config file. You don't have to, you can put it wherever you'd like. And I wanted to use version greater than or equal to 0.12.0, and that's just because I like that version, and I can even lock it to the version I have now, which is 12.29. Ooh, 13 is out. Great. Great. Let's go ahead and keep going here. Provider, AWS, and our provider variables. We want version somewhere around or 3.1.0, and we want our region to be US West 2. All right, so we have the backend file. Let's go ahead and save that. There we go. That's better. All right, now let's move on to our main file. Now that we have the backend configured, let's go ahead and go through the main TF. And we're going to have two resources there. We're going to have an AWS IAM role. I don't know why I can't type all of a sudden. We're going to have our first Lambda function, and then we are going to have a second resource, if I can spell that, of our actual AWS Lambda function. And so let's start here with this. First, the role. Wow, that's huge. Okay. So first with the role, we need the name of it, and that's the Hi-Fi Ghetto Lambda role. And then we need to assume role policy. And you know what? For that, we're just gonna go to EOF. So everything in between here will be part of it. So now that we have our role policy defined, we have the version, the statement, the effect, which is allow, the principal, which will be a service of Lambda and S3, and the action of being able to assume this role. We can go ahead onto the resource, which is the Lambda function. So let's start with the function name. My first function, the role, and we are going to use AWS IAM role dot this one dot arn. Then the file name is going to be that hello world.txt we created earlier, except it's going to be the zip. So, hello. Next, we want the source code hash, which helps keep the file check so that 64 to 56, so that we can tell if the file has been changed and make sure that everything is within spec and parameter and that it all works. Well, what it does is actually creates a checksum of the file and make sure that this zip matches what's on record in the Lambda. But we're going to ignore that in a minute. Handler, and this is just our handler for the Lambda, where it's going to look for what it should run. Runtime. And this is the language that our Lambda is going to be running in. I like Python for these. Next, we are going to underutilize lifecycle by just going with the ignore changes portion of it. And we want to ignore changes to the source code hash, because if we upload through Jenkins a new Lambda, or if we upload through Travis a new deployment, we want to make sure that when we run Terraform again, we don't go back and overwrite what was there. Then we want to ignore the handler in case we ever need to change it from index.py. And then we want to ignore the last modified. And what ignoring the last modified does is forces this. If we don't ignore the last modified, any changes through our CDCI are going to instantly, when this runs again, get overwritten. So we don't want that. Okay, so save. And then we want to check the formatting. Why did that not trigger anything? Oh, because I'm in the wrong directory. Okay. There we go. That's better. And now it looks all pretty. Start at the init. So we're initializing. I'm really hoping those cats aren't being picked up on the microphone. Now validate. Okay. And now we want to plan. Make sure everything's all right. So we're gonna run. It's what a plan does is it just runs through, verifies everything that's being changed, and gives you a nice output. So our plan is just to add 2, which is correct because we want to add the IAM role for the function, and then we want to add the function. So let's go ahead and apply it. And yes, because we need to apply it. Okay, now that we can verify it, let's go ahead and go check out to make sure the role was created. And we have the role, and it only has the trust relationship between Lambda and S3. All right. Now let's go look at our Lambda services. And we have our Lambda function. And with our Lambda function, where is it? We have Python 3.8, which we specified, and the handler is index.py. And when we look at it, it should just say, it's not going to find, it should just say our hello world. Okay, so there we go. There we go. The first Lambda created with the Terraform. So I'd like to say thank you if you actually watched this video and made it all the way through, and hopefully things will get smoother and better as I go on.